Okay, perfect. So we'll start again. Good morning to everybody to this MuchLoved's webinar session this morning, where we are joined by some of our charity partners, and I'll do some introductions in a second. Just a couple of housekeeping bits and pieces. There is a Q&A, which a couple of people have used, which is fantastic. That's because the chat switched off. Thank you, Jason. Oh gosh, I haven't done one of these for a while, and I've forgotten that the chat is switched off. Can somebody check the chat now? Or perhaps you can check it for me, Jason.
It should there we go, they're coming in.
Okay, perfect. Yeah,
I can see them. Can I presume, Jason, can you see them at the chat as well? Oh yes, everyone's coming in. That's better. Good, excellent.
Perfect, lovely. Okay, so yeah, so if everyone wants to use the chat to ask questions, then everybody should be able to see the communication rather than through the Q&A. It's only the hosts that can see it. So, but it's all now working. So it tells I haven't done them for 6 weeks or so. I forgot to turn that on. Anyway, so now some introductions. So I'm Sally, and I'm joined by my colleague, Catherine Watson. And we're also joined by two of our charity partners, Alison Hooker from Helen and Douglas Hospice and Samantha Kelly from Alzheimer's Society. So this morning we're going to be talking about the difference that the tribute pages or the funeral notices that you set up can make to your families and to the charities that they support. So both of the charities that are joined with us today receive a huge amount of donations from the funeral notices and then turn into tribute pages that yourselves set up. So I felt it was really important and to invite them, to give them the opportunity to talk to you about the difference that those pages can make. Now, before we do that, I just wanted to give you a little bit of information about MuchLoved, because I think there's potentially a bit of a mixed audience here today. Some people are MuchLoved partners, and there might be a couple of prospects joining us today. So just to give you a little bit of background about MuchLoved, we launched the service in 2006. We are an online bereavement charity, and we work with funeral directors providing online funeral notices, donation processing, and long-term bereavement support. But we also work with charities providing them with their own tribute fund scheme. And we work with about 400 charities. We process donations for a lot more, as you can see on this slide, but we work in partnership with about 400. Now, the service was set up by Jonathan Davies, who's our founder and trustee. And actually, rather than me giving you a full kind of background about the story and why he set it up, actually, if you've got a copy of the NEFD magazine, or actually Catherine and I can put a link to the latest magazine in the chat later, so you can have a read of it. But there's a really nice article about why John set up the service in that, and also the Farewells magazine from this month or last month, but the most recent copy anyway. So sort of to date, MuchLoved have supported over 1 million people with tribute pages. So that's a phenomenal figure, a phenomenal amount of people that have had the opportunity to have a tribute page set up for them. And we've helped raise over, well, actually it's over 125 million. That 5 million hasn't changed since I wrote these slides. I just clearly didn't put the right figure on to start with, but and we've supported over 6,500 charities through those donations. Now, just to give you a little sort of snapshot of kind of what happens every day at MuchLoved. In September 22, now these figures are quite different in January actually, but 165 new tributes are created on a daily basis. Now at the moment that's more like 350, so you can just see how the service fluctuates depending on the time of year and depending on how much usage it's required of it. But a huge amount of activity within those tributes, so you can see some of the numbers here. Nearly 500 candles lit, a huge amount of images uploaded. In fact, I've been looking at one particular funeral director partner recently, and they had several tribute pages that had over 500 images on multiple pages. So the images and the photos that are uploaded are incredibly popular. and lots of thoughts being loaded, and also the virtual gifts, which you can see a little snapshot of here in this image on the slide. And also events, and by events, people might set up events because they might want to continue fundraising through the page in the long term. So they might want to set up a, coffee morning, or they might be a bit more adventurous and do a run or climb Mount Kilimanjaro now that we're allowed to do stuff like that again. So the events are very popular, and also people can interact with the page with videos and music. And obviously we're processing a huge amount of donations every day as well. So the next thing I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and show you a video. It's just a 3-minute video, and it interviews 3 of individuals who have used our service. Now, please do pop in the chat box if you can't hear this, but I think I have sort of optimized it, so you should be able to hear everything. So just bear with me a second, and hold on, I've shared the wrong bit, sorry, but back I go. Share the right section, right. Let's get rid of all the rubbish around the side.
Gosh, where do I start?
Leonard was a father, a grandfather, a husband.
Adam was just a kind, lovely boy.
Who was Murray? Well, she was our mum.
He was a son, wonderful son, dear brother.
He liked a pint, and he liked his plain food. He was very, very British. With the MuchLoved website, you can put memories on there, photographs, you can set up little diaries, you can explain on the photographs where that was taken and what was done. You can also raise funds for charities.
For anybody grieving the loss of a family member or friend, it's a positive thing that you can do to remember that person.
I set up the tribute site to my mother, Murray, and the family generally agreed that it would be a nice place to put our thoughts together, particularly the gallery of photographs, the music, Mum loved music.
It's also something that, it's like a living diary that I can visit and friends and family can visit from wherever they are in the world at any time.
It was a very easy website to set up. I'm no expert in these things, and it's quite easy for other people to add to the website. We then all had occasion to revisit that site and revisit those thoughts, and it helped us greatly in getting over that very difficult period.
Since losing my son, I have been in contact with a lot of parents who have lost their children too, and it's something that I have recommended to people because I do find it is really a helpful tool.
And you can set up contributions to any charity just by a click of a button. Through his treatment, he was very positive, and I think he'd be more than happy to think that he was now raising money for charity, trying to find a cure for prostate cancer that sadly took his life.
It's a really important way of expressing your love for the person that you've lost, and also to remember the person with fond memories. Don't have to focus on anything sad, don't have to talk about how they died, just remember how they lived.
Brilliant. So hopefully that gives you a really good...
What is a person's knowledge and experience actually worth?
Sorry.
20k a year?
That's YouTube carrying on. Yeah, so hopefully that just gives you a really good flavour as to, you know, the difference that the pages that you're setting up can make to some of your families. So I'm just going to hand it over to you, Catherine, now.
Brilliant, thank you. And actually, I realise now I should probably watch that video more often. It really is powerful, and actually it just goes to show that all those lovely pages that you create for your families, obviously for yourselves, the funeral directors, it's often to facilitate the donations, but they do last forever. And actually that just highlighted what they mean to people, and you know, those pages that you've created, you know, they do become such a personal space. So I think I just sort of want to say thank you to the funeral directors for doing that. So as well as sort of, we actually work with nearly 2,000 funeral director branches here in the UK, but actually we also work, as Sally mentioned earlier, with 400 plus charities to actually enable them to offer their own bespoke tribute offering. So that's what Helen and Douglas House have, and also Alzheimer's Society and another sort of 400 charities as well. It's their own bespoke offering that sits on the MuchLoved platform. So without actually, who's going to go first, Sally? I didn't actually check.
Alison.
Oh, Alison, brilliant. So yeah, you know, what they're able to do, Alison's going to speak first, then Samantha, but yeah, you create the pages, you know, you set them up, and the partner charities are able to see those lovely pages that you've created and sort of pick up the baton and continue to support and steward their supporters, or the families who are wanting to support those charities. So over to you now, Alison, to kind of give your experiences as well.
Very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm Alison from Helen and Douglas House. I've worked for them now for nearly 14 years, and I'm a community fundraising manager, which means that I work with a lot of local supporters. So it might be a school, a Rotary group, local corporates, but I also work a lot with our families as well, and obviously on the In Memory projects, which includes our MuchLoved tribute funds. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what we do at Helen and Douglas House. Our tribute fund scheme, and also how we look after and steward the people who open a tribute fund, so that we're making sure that they get the most out of that. So what do? We are a children's hospice. We opened in 1982, and at that point we were, well, still are, the first children's hospice in the world, and we actually celebrated our 40th anniversary last November. We support families who have a child with a life-shortening or life-limiting illness throughout the whole of Oxfordshire and most of the surrounding counties, or large areas of the surrounding counties. We support from the point of diagnosis. So that's where a child is diagnosed with a life-shortening illness. So that means if they're a very small baby or a child, we will potentially support them for many years whilst that condition degenerates. We provide short supportive stays, so that's where they come in for a few days, sometimes without their family, so mums and dads get a bit of a break, sometimes with their family, so that the whole family have a bit of a holiday whilst they're with us. We have family flats that the family can stay in. We also provide end-of-life care. We provide outreach nursing, so that's where our nurses visit people in their own homes, and obviously they work very closely with the local community doctors and nurses, so that we're providing a joined-up service for the care of that child. And it's about looking after the whole family, so it's counselling for the family, it's bereavement support. We support with brothers and sisters because it can be really tough for them. Might just be a lovely home cooked meal, something special when they come in and stay, or actually as simple as a hug when they really need it. Quite a lot of our families, very sadly, are single parents, and a lot of mums say it's actually the only time they get a really good hug. So that's important as well. And it costs us around £3.8 million a year to provide that care for our families. Thanks, Sally. So we partner with MuchLoved and have been doing now for about 10 years. As I say, we're a local charity. We've got around 190 tribute funds, and these fall into two groups. The first is for Helen and Douglas House child who's died and the family choose to set it up, and around 80 of our funds are that type of tribute fund. Then obviously we have the funeral collections, and that's where Helen and Douglas House has been chosen as a charity, either because the loved ones supported us before they died, or because we're a local charity. But our initial stewardship of that tribute fund or funeral notice is the same, however it was created. So we will light a candle on the tribute fund and we'll put a message on there. If we've got the Tribute Guardian's email address, we will send them a short email, obviously offering our condolences, seeing if they will need any support with setting up the tribute fund. And obviously, if we know it's a Helen and Douglas House family, then we will offer extra support, make sure they're in touch with our bereavement team and everything. We then monitor that funeral collection or the tribute page for the funeral donations coming in. And when those donations stop, we will send a thank you card, ideally straight to the Tribute Guardian. But if we don't have the details, then we'll contact the funeral director and ask them to send that on for us. And then the ongoing stewardship of that tribute fund is determined by the GDPR status. So what that Tribute Guardian has signed up for, whether or not they want emails and ongoing contact from us. Realistically, we know that don't worry, it doesn't matter. Realistically, we know that most funeral collections, the fund will actually become inactive after their funeral unless there's a personal connection with Helen and Douglas House. That said, we continue to monitor our pages. We will light candles for anniversaries and Christmas until it's clear that that page is dormant. So unsurprisingly, the majority of our active pages are for a child who's been supported by Helen and Douglas House. So that's where we will have that longer term relationship. We don't want any family to ever feel under pressure to raise money for us, whether that's immediately after the child has died or for however long they want to use this tribute fund. And we hope that they will just leave them in existence forever. We want it to be somewhere where they can put photos, they can add special memories, and they can share it with their friends and families if that's what they want to do. So for this reason, we worked in 2020 with MuchLoved to rebrand our tribute funds as online memory boxes. Thanks, Sally. And this is what we came up with. The idea is that they're basically designed to be that digital version of the box of cards, photos, special things. You saw in the video the table with them sitting there looking at photographs. Well, this is just a digital way of storing all those photographs. And as I say, if they want to, making it easier for other people to look at them as well, but also to add their own photos and their special memories. This is the way that we promote it on our website. Thanks, Sally. So you can see there that the focus is heavily on the idea of it being a box of memories. The Tribute Guardian chooses how they set it up, who can access it, and who else can contribute it. So there are various levels of privacy and they choose all of that. They can add a candle on a special day. They can add a little virtual birthday gift. We see that some families actually write messages to their children. So maybe they've had a new baby or something's happened very special in their lives, or it's somebody's birthday, and they might actually pop a photograph and a little message to their child on their tribute fund. Many families do fundraise, and this is often a time when either they create a memory box because they're talking to us about fundraising and we suggest it as basically a vehicle to collect all those donations, but something that they can then do more with, or they might reactivate one that they set up for a funeral collection. And the reason they want to do this is because they want to see everything all in one place that's been raised in memory of their child, and that can be incredibly important to them. As they said again on the video, it's a way of remembering somebody that you've lost. It's keeping them alive, and you can see what's being done, as I say, in their memory. It's very easy to be wary of talking to people about fundraising when they've lost someone. That's absolutely right. We have to be sensitive, but we also have to remember that for many people, it is a really important part of the grief journey, and that's certainly something that our families talk to us about. So because of this, we would really encourage you to add the Tribute Guardian's details when you set up a page. It just means that we can start that initial contact with them. We can offer them any help with the Tribute Fund if they want to put photos and things on, and then we're starting to develop that relationship with them. It also means that if they want to keep the Tribute Fund active after the funeral, they can get support from that with us. And if they want to, at that stage, if they've set it up with yourselves as a a funeral director, they can transfer it onto our Memory Box platform if they'd like to. And obviously, again, this is especially important for Helen and Douglas House families, as they really are likely to benefit from a longer term relationship with us, because it just keeps them in contact with all the support that we can offer. We see that many of our families are still using their child's memory box years after they've died, and they may be putting on a small donation for a birthday, or they're just lighting a candle at Christmas, or popping on a little virtual gift. And sometimes the support that we can give as a result of a discussion with a family actually over a memory box rather than over bereavement can lead to other things. For instance, last year I spoke to a grandmother literally the day after she'd lost her granddaughter. She'd contacted our care team because she wanted to do something positive. And whilst we were chatting, she set up a memory box, but she also just happened to mention that she was struggling to talk to her other grandchildren because they were asking her lots of questions. And her own son, whose baby it was, and her daughter-in-law weren't in a space where they'd wanted at the time they left the hospice to take any bereavement support or talk to anybody. So she didn't know quite where to turn to. So straight away, we were able to put her in touch with our bereavement service. They spoke to her, had a long chat. They answered her questions, gave her some advice, and sent her some books. And when I spoke to her about a month later, she was finding those conversations much, much easier with her grandchildren. So as I say, it really is about more than just thinking about these as a fundraising idea. That said, it would be very wrong to ignore a huge benefit that they can bring to the charity. Since we started working with MuchLoved 10 years ago, as a sort of relatively small local charity, our tribute funds have raised almost £700,000, and just over £600,000 of that is from family tribute funds. So you can see from our perspective, it is that longer term support. We also, thanks Sally, we're also, if somebody does keep their tribute fund going and puts it potentially onto our platform, we can then support them from a longer term perspective as well. Because for some people, in memory fundraising or being supported is short term. For others, it might go on for many, many years. And that's the job of a CFM, to talk to the family and work out what they want and what they want from us. So again, you can see there, we can light candles on birthdays. We can pop a little gift on there. For supporters who want to fundraise, we can help them add events to their page. We can also, if they want, add events. Often you'll find when a child dies, friends, family, work colleagues all want to fundraise as well. So all of that can be added, and the donations can be either put directly onto MuchLoved or added as an offline donation by us afterwards, depending on how they want to do it. And that just means, as I say, they've got this complete record. At any time, they can pop on there and they can see the lovely messages that people are leaving. They can see the photographs, and that can be a huge comfort to many of our families. Depending on the what we're allowed to do in terms of contact through GDPR, we can also let people know about our other in-memory activities. So for instance, we do a Christmas tree of light, we have a butterfly bimble memory walk, family remembrance service, and we can let people know about those. Some people said about doing a special challenge. Again, we can support with that. This year alone, we've got a Brecon Beacon walk, an Oxford building abseil, and a fire walk. And those are just a few of the things we've got planned. And we will find that on every one of those events, there is a family doing something in memory of their child. And I'm just going to leave you with some photos from our lovely, I mentioned our butterfly bimble memory walk. We've done this at Blenheim Palace for the last couple of years, and as you can see there, people come along, they have a lovely time. They often put the name or the photograph of the person that they're walking in aid of, and we do a knitted caterpillar treasure hunt. We have some fab volunteers who made us all those little knitted caterpillars, and so that keeps the children going on the 4-kilometre walk. There are little questions on those leaves for them to answer. So it's just a lovely event. Predominantly it's families who come to that, but we do find that some of our general in-memory supporters come as well. So again, it's just another touch point for us with them, and something that can help them on their grief journey, for want of a better word. But it's a very special day. So thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.
That was lovely. Thank you so much, Alison. I think it's really important to hear what the charities do and all the activities and the support you offer. You know, it's even for myself, and, you know, I chat to Alison quite a lot, and it's just hearing such a much more in-depth sort of, you know, get an idea of how it all works and all that support that you offer. So that's really great. And obviously, you know, the stewardship through the tribute pages is really important. And so thank you for sharing that. If we move on to hear from Samantha now, that'd be great.
Hello. So yeah, I'm Sam. I'm from the Alzheimer's Society. Apologies in advance if I sound a bit snuffly. I'm just getting over a cold. So yeah, I'm from the Alzheimer's Society. I've been here about 14 months, but I've worked in charities for over 5 years. Alzheimer's Society, most people kind of have an idea of what we do, but you know, may not know the exact details. Basically, our money funds research and also funds frontline services, helping people affected by dementia, whether that is people who actually have been diagnosed or people who have family members or maybe carers for a family member or friend who has dementia. It's a very sort of help and hope strategy where, you know, obviously we want to fund the future in terms of improving research, finding more drugs that will slow down and hopefully eventually stop Alzheimer's developing or dementia, and also, you know, supporting those people who have it now, because those people tend to be quite overlooked, especially sort of in the care system. We have a lot of people who get in touch with us for support and things like that, and we run services like Singing for the Brain, which is for people living with dementia, to kind of get them moving, get them singing, get them working together. Singing and music are actually really good for helping people with dementia kind of with their coordination and with their memory a bit. So that's a really good frontline service. We actually have somebody on one of our adverts who used to work in music, and he said that he runs his own group now, and he said it's the most fulfilling thing he has ever done in music. So yeah, that's a bit about our strategy. Dementia is kind of an umbrella term. There are lots of different kinds. Alzheimer's is just one, but it is the most prevalent in the UK. And we cover Northern Ireland, England and Wales. So we cover all those. We are a national charity, and we do raise quite a lot throughout those 3 countries. So yeah, and basically in memory is sort of like a big part of that. And a lot of people come through to us through in memory, because ultimately it is a progressive disease and lots of people are touched by dementia, and therefore we have quite a lot of people who then go on to fundraise or want to do something in memory of somebody with dementia with their loved one. Sally? So tribute funds are something that are very important to us. As you can see, they raise 40% of our regional income, which is over £2.5 million as a year to date. That doesn't include this month, and it won't include February and March, obviously. So we're still, you know, the money is still coming in from those months. So that isn't a full figure for the year. It is just to date, but it is our largest income stream of all of our regional fundraising. Last month, it actually raised £51,000 alone, just sort of on its own, and that would pay for sort of 2 dementia advisors or 1 dementia advisor for 2 years. Our dementia advisors, it's a very hard job. You're basically speaking to people, again, who have either been diagnosed with dementia, who are living with dementia, have a family member or carer who is affected by dementia, or maybe they've lost someone. So those people are, you know, very, very much sort of in a very emotional conversation for probably most of their day. They're chatting to people who, you know, might have just found out or maybe somebody who is really struggling because they're not getting the support they need, that kind of thing. So it is a very hard job, but it makes such a difference just having somebody there, because unfortunately dementia is not very well sort of looked after in the medical sphere. So if somebody gets diagnosed with cancer, for instance, they're put on a pathway and you'll be treated and you know what's going on. Although it's a horrible thing, you know what's going on. With dementia, there isn't as much knowledge, there isn't as much awareness. So a lot of the time, GPs don't really know where to send people. If, you know, it is improving, people do send them to us, signpost them across to dementia charities. But a lot of the time, people aren't really told much. They're told to get their affairs in order, which is, you could never say that to somebody with cancer. It would be deemed horrific, but a lot of people still hear it when they get dementia, to get their affairs in order. That, you know, that they're not told much about it. So it can be very distressing for families when diagnoses happen. So those dementia advisors are very important to us. Or, for instance, it could pay for 18 months of PhD research into dementia. PhD researchers are really important to not just dementia research, but medical research overall. They help to sort of, you know, these are people who are just coming into their research who are on that pathway, and it's very hard to get funding. And if we can fund them, then that means that person can continue their career. And hopefully kind of go on to do more. So it's really important that we have the funds to do that. And as I pointed out, like just from December, that could fund a researcher to look into, work on their PhD into dementia, or it could fund those frontline services. It's a massive difference. But also from sort of a supportive point of view, it introduces us to a lot of new people who might never have raised money for us before, or they might have used our frontline services but never really contacted us. So it's an opportunity for us to then basically help those people remember their loved one. One of the reasons I kind of do what I do is because I am in memory supporting myself. My grandma was, she passed away in 2020. For the last few years of her life, she was very sick. She had a lot of different things wrong with her. And if you've ever had anybody in that situation where if they're elderly, or even if they're just maybe they're not as able to look after themselves as they used to be, you'll know that it's gut-wrenching to see sort of how those people are treated within the system. But the hospice that is sort of local to her actually did a wonderful job in helping sort of make those last years a lot easier for her. They helped her with mobility issues. They helped have somebody there who could come in and just sit with her and have a chat. Because at this point, my parents weren't retired and they couldn't see her throughout the day. So having somebody there when she couldn't get out was a real bonus. So I give to them now because, well, partly in thanks for everything that they did, treating her with dignity, which many people did not. And also because I want other people to have that same experience. And we find that I think a lot of people are in the same boat when they lose someone. They want to give to a cause that resonates with them, that is important, and that has either helped one of their relatives or was important to one of their relatives. And keeping that memory as alive is just paramount, really. And I think when you have a situation where you've lost someone, it doesn't always mean it's a one-off donation. If it's somebody close to you, you might want to give again and again. So it's really important for us to get our messaging right and look after those people who come into us, and make sure that they feel that, you know, we're doing something really special and important with the money that they raise. Okay, so this is our supporter journey at the moment. So the first thing we do is light a candle on the tribute page. same as Alison, and we put a little message on there just to say that we're thinking of them at this time. You know, we understand how difficult it is. Then we send them an introductory email. We include an information pack as part of that, so that they have ideas of how they can use the tribute fund, and also it's really kind of just to let them know that we're really sorry this horrible thing has happened, and we're very grateful for their support. And that's really sort of the primary function of that email. The PDF is sort of a secondary add-on to make sure that if they do have questions, there is a document there to help them, but they can always speak to us in the meantime. And then around the time of the funeral, if we know it, or if we don't know it, but sort of, you know, it's around that time, we do send like a little thinking of you card, or thinking of you email if we don't have the address. So it will look something like this. And that will be handwritten by one of our team, just to give them a message to let them know that, you know, we appreciate that this is a really difficult time, and they have thought of us, of all people, and we want to acknowledge that and ensure that they feel that, you know, we are very grateful for that, because it is a big thing to think of someone when you are at a very, in a very dark time. It's a big deal. So we like to send a little card if we can, or if not, we will send an email instead. Around the 8 weeks plus mark, we do send a thank you card or a thank you email. Again, we have a little thank you card there. And again, these are handwritten by our team. If somebody is looked after by one of our community fundraisers, then they will write the emails, the cards, they will write everything. So that person gets a joined up journey. So everything is usually under one person. So, you know, you're not dealing with lots of different people. It's one person to contact, one person's details that are always there. So it feels more of like a personal connection, because it should, because we're going on a journey with these people somewhere. And, you know, it's a hard journey, but we want to make sure they're as comfortable as we can make them, basically. And then at the 6 month point, we do a follow-up email, just to kind of remind them that we're really grateful for everything they've done. Again, you know, that donation, even people will say, oh, I've only raised £150 or something like that, but that can pay for lab equipment, that can pay for somebody's time, that can, you know, be part of training. It can be onboarding for people joining Dementia Friends or Dementia Connect. So everything, you know, it's worth it. But it's just to remind them that actually we're really still grateful for that donation and for the difference they are making today and for the future. So we make that at the 6 month point at this point. And also all of our tribute fund owners get grouped into a little special grouping of their own. And this prevents any marketing emails being sent out to them straight away. So if they have agreed to have more contact with us by email, by a phone, by a post, they won't receive anything from us within that 3 to 6 month window. Just because we think it's a sensitive time, and you wouldn't want somebody sending you something for, let's say, Glow or In Memory Walk within those months when you're still very sort of emotionally raw, and that's a really big deal. So we put them in that group just to make sure that they don't receive any marketing that isn't suitable within that time frame where they might find it really inappropriate. Okay. So this is just an example of the email that we send out. We put our details in there. On the end of the email, there's also our phone number, so they can always get in touch with us. So most of the tribute funds that we set up, they will go out to our community fundraisers and they will send a version of this. And, you know, they will put their own details on, so that person can always contact them if they need to come back, if they need to let us know if any checks are coming in or things like that, they can always get in touch with somebody. We make sure our details are always embedded, and also they will be in our, like our signature as well. I was going to say footer, but our signature as well. So yeah, that's just an example of the kind of email that we send. Ultimately, we want to be direct and sort of acknowledge what has happened, but we also kind of want it to be sensitive and not kind of overload them with information. So if somebody's just passed away, you don't want lots of information, so we just try and keep it a bit vague in that respect. Yeah. And this is why next of kin details are so important to us. So we get, on average, per week, 40 to 80. At the minute, it's a bit higher than that. We've had, I think my highest was 115 set up in a week. We do get quite a lot of pages, again, just because of the nature of our work. Alzheimer's is sadly a progressive and terminal illness, and people die from it. And a lot of the people who support us will be relatives of those people. However, between 35 and 50% of these people, we don't have the full details for. So sometimes we might have partial details, a name and an email address, and some have none at all. And obviously we can contact people if we have an email address, but it does mean that they miss out on a much more personalised journey. We can't send the cards. We can't allocate them a specific in-memory community fundraiser who can, if they come back and have questions about fundraising in future, or events such as the memory walk or glow, we can't kind of go back to them directly. So that's part of the issue, but also it means that we can't add up those donations, and we know that this is really important to, one second, my throat is not happy that I've been talking this long. But it basically, it means that we can't add up any money that comes in. So if, for instance, we don't have any details for somebody and some checks don't get sent in, we can't marry up that there's a tribute fund as well, unless we have the details for it. If we don't have the details, then we don't know. And somebody else will thank that from our supporter care team, which they do send out very nice letters, but it won't acknowledge anything that's on the tribute fund. And also the money won't be put against that person's record if we can't set up a record to begin with. That money won't sit there with the record. So again, we won't get a full picture. And we know that actually this is something that's really important to people. They want all of the funds to be allocated together. They want it to be an easy job to just have someone say, like, how much is in my fund, and you be able to tell them. Or if they have a fund set up and they want the offline donations to go onto it, then again, they want people to be able to see how much money is in their fund, how much has been raised in this person's memory, which is a very reasonable thing. And not having those details just makes it so much harder for us to then do that and look into that. Because again, these people, it's all of our community fundraisers who are looking after these people. And they might not see if offline donations come in. When we have a record for somebody, we see everything basically. There's a little pop-up that comes up to say that this person has a tribute fund. So if checks do come in, if money does come in from one of you guys in the funeral industry, then as soon as it comes into our Plymouth office, somebody there can look at their record and see that person's got a tribute fund. They can contact the community fundraiser and say, do you want to thank this with the rest of the money they've raised? Do you want to add it on as an offline donation? There's all those options available to them then. So that's why it's so important. It makes the supported journey more joined up and more personal for the people who ultimately are coming to us in a very dark time. And that's why we're here to stress how important it is. But yeah, it really makes a difference when we can do those sorts of things, because I'm sure you know that the smallest differences sometimes when people are going through a bereavement can make the biggest impact. So if we can go back to them and say, oh yeah, I see you have got a tribute fund, you've got some lovely pictures of your mum on there, when we're adding some checks on, it changes their experience from good to much better. So I would always encourage people to think about the details they're putting on, and sort of, ultimately it makes what we're doing for the supporter better, really. And to me, that's really all we can do when somebody is in that situation.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Samantha and Alison. You've shared some really interesting insight into your services, and also the phenomenal figures that are raised for both charities. I mean, 700,000 raised through InMem for Helen and Douglas, that's phenomenal. And obviously the amounts raised for Alzheimer's Society are incredible. And the new amount of new donors that you receive, that's incredibly valuable to the organisation. So hopefully everyone has found this morning's session useful, and that you have learned something. There aren't any questions, but obviously if any of the audience have got anything to ask, then I don't know what's happening with my slides, then please do, pop your questions in the chat, or if you think of something afterwards, you're welcome to kind of get in touch with us. I'm sure we can kind of answer your questions after the session. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's anything coming through. So all that leaves me to do is thank you very much, Samantha and Alison, for joining us today and giving up your time. The session is recorded, so if anyone wants to share it with any of their colleagues afterwards, I'll make sure that you've got a copy of that recording. It will be on the Funeral Director Support site, and you can access it from there. But hope everyone has a wonderful day, and thank you very much for joining us.